Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Michael, and this is another wrap-up video, this time for a whopping 4 months. And it's the same amount of books I read in the first 2 months of the year. What can I say? I was in a reading slump. Anyway, 4 months, 4 books. But what did I think of them, and would I recommend them? Let's find out. First up was Lion by Sonya Walger. This one was an arc that I got in at work, and I took it for one very important reason. The author is the actress who played Molly Cobb on For All Mankind, one of my favorite recent TV shows, and Molly Cobb was one of my favorite characters on said show. Originally, I thought it was a biography or a memoir, but it's actually fiction. Although it's billed as autobiographical fiction, so more drawn from real experiences. I can't say for sure how much of it is true, info is sparse on her life, but the emotions felt real. It was mostly about her relationship with her father, an Argentinian man who spent his life on the move, getting into trouble, having adventures, and fathering other children, siblings that Sonya had to share him with. It chronicles her life up until about her father's death, and that's about all I'll spoil for you, because if you read it, you really shouldn't know too much about it. It tugs at the heartstrings, has a few OMG shock moments, and I couldn't put it down. I know I'm always generous, but I gave it 5 stars, and I definitely recommend it. The chapters are pretty short. It's much more like an autobiographical book of essays than a traditional novel, so it's very easy to read on your commute to finish a chapter before your stop arrives. So I'm going to go out of order for this one for the sake of saving the big one for the end, because I have a lot to say about it. But third up on the list, again, bear with me, was A Reason to See You Again by Jami Attenberg. I read it as an ebook. This one I picked up because John Scalzi, author of Red Shirts and Old Man's War, posted a link on Blue Sky or Twitter, I forget when because of how long ago it was, but saying that one of his friends had an ebook on sale for like $1.99 or something at all major retailers, so I picked up the ebook at my favorite corporate book retailer, named for the Winter Soldier and the 10th Doctor's mouthy redhead companion, and promptly forgot about it. Until I was between books and I figured, why not? And I'm glad I did. A Reason to See You Again is a book about generational trauma with 3 generations of Jewish American women and their interactions with both life in general and each other. It starts with Frida Cohen, the mother, whose behavior alienates her 2 daughters, Nancy and Shelley, who go off on their own into the world, and then Nancy's daughter Jessica, and how their lives intersect and diverge over the years from the 70s to about 2007. It's a very human book, rife with emotions and uncomfortable situations. Shelley deals with sexism, Nancy deals with marital problems, and Frida deals with addiction. It feels very lived in, and I found myself really feeling for the characters. Plus, it nails a lot of the nuances about being Jewish in America over the decades. Frida's late husband and the girl's father was a Holocaust survivor, and there's a lot of talk regarding religion, particularly how kids tend to drift from the religiousness of their parents over the course of the novel. I'd give this one 4 stars, because I think the ending was a little bit abrupt, but otherwise it was a solid read, and I definitely recommend it. Service by John Tottenham was a book that I probably wouldn't have even noticed if not for one of my coworkers demanding that I read the first page, which convinced me to read it. This is what it says. "Do you need a bag?" I asked, and received no response. "Do you need a bag?" I asked again, and again received no response. I tried again a 3rd time. You might need some context for that reaction. If you're new here, I work at a bookstore. I'm a bookseller, and I work the cash register at my store at least twice a week, and I have had that exact interaction at least once a workday for the last 4 years and counting. This book is a very lived-in account of working at a bookstore that every retail employee should read, because it's the ultimate catharsis. As the main character, Sean, does and says things that we can only dream of saying and tell our coworkers that we wished we said it. It is slightly different from my personal experience, because this book takes place at an indie bookstore, and I work in corporate retail, but customers are stupid no matter where you go. One more excerpt from the beginning. Can I ask if you have a particular book in stock? What is it? The Artist's Way. The wailing of a child tore through the air.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
This book is like Clerks or Empire Records or even the recent Logic joint Paradise Records, in that the writer has either clearly existed in the setting of the book or has spoken at length to someone who did, one of an aging journalist with writer's block trying to further his career while younger people lap him, while having to answer the dumbest questions known to man, day after day after day. I've only got the writer's block and the dumb questions part, and I fully understand where he's coming from. If you work retail, particularly book retail, you've got to read this book. It is our Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, in the sense of that it truly portrays the horrors that book retail workers deal with on a daily basis. I inhaled this book, it was so good, and even if the main character is overly ornery and grumpy, even based on people I've worked with, but the story isn't just vicariously living through the narrator being rude to rude customers. It's about being a writer. It's about living in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood that you used to be able to afford to live in. It is a 5-star book, and I definitely recommend it to both my siblings in arms of retail workers, but also to everyone else, too. I first read The Hunger Games in 2009, when I was in 8th grade, I think. And over the summer break, I was at Walmart with my family or at Target, and I begged my mom for not only Catching Fire, but also Mockingjay, and I inhaled those books. I watched the first movie, but I never really got into them. The books were enough, and I kind of sort of forgot about them, but I never forgot how it felt when I read it. I bypassed A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because I really have no interest in President Snow's backstory. Ironic given that he's played in the original movies by Hawkeye Pierce himself, Donald Sutherland. But I always liked Haymitch, and I was interested to read his backstory. Bought myself a copy the day it came out, same day as John Green's Everything's Tuberculosis. And I went to his talk he did in Manhattan, and so when I was taking the train home, this was the only book I had other than Everything is Tuberculosis, which I had obviously already read, because I read the advanced copy. So I decided to just read a few pages just to see what it was like, and it was incredible. Incredible because on that train, I was suddenly transported back in time. I'm back in 8th grade, and I remembered exactly what it was like reading the first Hunger Games book for the first time, not knowing anything about Panem or Katniss, just this random book I picked up in the classroom library on a whim because I liked the cover. And honestly, that's all I really have to say, right? It made me feel like I did the first time I read the first book. That's the review right there. I know I'm missing out because Suzanne Collins is clearly going for a through line with Lucy Gray Baird and how that experience turned Snow into the ruthless dictator that he was in the original trilogy, and I plan on rectifying that this summer, but even without the backstory of Songbirds and Snakes, I still fully understood what was going on in this book from my memories of Haymitch Abernathy. What could have caused him to become so jaded and closed off until Katniss came along? Plus, it was interesting seeing names pop up that I knew I should remember but didn't entirely. Probably should have read a plot recap before reading, and names that I definitely remembered. I'm definitely more interested in watching the OG movies again, perhaps with a new perspective that I didn't have back then as a young teen. Suzanne Collins to me is like the anti-Rowling for a multitude of reasons. One being that she doesn't funnel her money into harassing and killing marginalized groups, but also that two, when she returns to her world, she returns with a real story to tell. I was never a Harry Potter kid, so I don't know what would have been highly sought after by fans, but what she has done has felt kind of flat to me, doing it more to keep the brand alive rather than actually having a new and interesting story to tell. Whereas Suzanne Collins has a clear plan for these books, and they help reinterpret the original books for both new audiences for whom this is their first encounter, but also for the fans that grew up with it. Again, not going to spoil anything too much because you should probably just go read it if this is something that interests you, but I think that nobody can argue with me that this isn't the most deserved one that I've given yet. And that was my last 4 months in books. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about it, and I wish I had read more than just 4, but I was in a slump, and hopefully I will read more over the summer. I'm going to have a little more free time than usual, so hopefully I can fill that space with reading. But I hope that you enjoyed hearing me talk about it. I hope that it inspired you to add some of these books to your TBR list, especially Sunrise and Service, which I think are kind of the two standouts of the last couple of months for me. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I have other videos on my channel. Most of them are from my previous incarnation and are kind of awful, but go back and watch them. Plus, I have 2 recent videos that are more going for what I'm going for now. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you like these videos and want to see more, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time.